Anyhow, so he gets his ass beat. Carlos does. So Jaden's messed up pretty bad, but he's a vampire, so he heals quickly. Uh, Carlos is bleeding. He's all banged up to shit. He's all bruised up, broken bones, and the bones are fusing back together. But he's still extremely winded, and he tells him he grabs Carlos gets grabbed by Jaden. Jaden just throws him through the garage wall, and he falls in the garage where the music is still playing, but nobody's dancing anymore. And Carlos hits the ground. When he looks up, you just see the 100 or so guests that were there at the party are all dead and laid out on the concrete in the street. And he's like, and he's freaking out, and he turns around, and Jaden drops his fangs, and he's like, he retracts his fangs, and he's like, listen, unless you want to end up like them, you got to listen up. So Carlos, he's pissed off. He's not trying to hear it, but the old man comes up, and he's like, listen, I know what you're going through. Basically touches his hand, and Carlos can see all these memories and visions of lines and lines and ancestry of slayers running through him. And so he realizes what he is. He's like, oh my God. And he goes, why are you helping him? We're supposed to be killing him. And he's like, well, there's bigger fish to fry. There's more to it. So they recruit the stripper, they recruit the guy who looks like McLovin. It's the nerdy, LARPing, Elder Scroll playing, super nerd. He's making faces because he plays Elder Scrolls. Just the super nerd, the kid that we all love, but he gets teased and picked on. Not you, because you don't get teased or picked on because, well, you're my brother, and I wouldn't allow it. So anyhow, they get together, they form this group, they hunt the Dark Coven, and all the while Vladimir is doing whatever he can to set up things to bring his grandfather Michael back to Earth. Well, what ends up happening is Michael goes to there's these shamans, right? And the shamans have all kinds of crazy powers endowed to them. I've got some ideas, some stuff where maybe Vladimir gets kidnapped in the very beginning of Slayers, because he's too powerful to just assume that he couldn't have handled the majority of the Dark Coven or all of the Dark Coven on his own. The werewolves partner up with the Dark Coven, and that's ultimately where I think we're going to go with it is the werewolves and the Dark Coven versus Vladimir and his sword, and the Ensleys with Kristoff. And right now what I've got going is I don't have a tie between Anubis and the Dark Coven yet. I got to come up with one that maybe you can help me with that. Also, Steven from Vengeance, he was military, so I got some cool stuff where I want to interject the army into this story. Pay a little bit of tribute to the army. None of this Air Force nonsense either. I don't want to. No, we can mention the Air Force briefly, but that's like mentioning the Girl Scouts of America. What point? What relevance does it have? Not much.
Air Force. She Air Force.
She's Army. Better calm down. She's supposed to be a drill sergeant. Oh, by the way, Michi's about to enlist. He leaves Monday. High five. High five. There it is. Boom. Anyhow, I got some room to grow in Slayers, but ultimately it's going to end with the shaman bringing back the little girl. Remember we talked about this. Bringing back bringing back the boy, and then the mom trying to bring back the girl unsuccessfully. Triggers the rage demons that can infect each other, thus the zombie apocalypse, which would then feed into the fourth book and the final book, where the apocalypse on Earth keeps the horsemen at bay, keeps them dealing with stuff on. I'm sorry. The idea was for the horsemen to come to Earth and have to annihilate it with Legion and the archangels, thus leaving heaven unprotected. You kind of get the idea where I'm going with this. Anubis storms the gates of heaven. Big war ensues, both on heaven and earth.
Maybe Anubis gets into heaven and then uses the fortress of heaven against the Legion.
Can very well be done.
Because it's unprotected. So they get in and then...
They can't get back in, or the Legion can't get back into heaven?
Yeah.
It's possible.
Like they're trying to get in there.
And ultimately what the story is going to end with is this epic fight scene between Michael and Lucifer. Lucifer he comes back to Earth. He's handling Michael, but he can't continue for some reason. I don't have it in my mind yet. It's got to be really amazing. Basically, he has to give his own life, and he transfers his power. Because remember, once Michael comes to Earth, everyone loses their power, unless you're royalty. So Lucifer is the only one with power left. I'm sorry. Well, yeah, Gabriel, Lucifer, and Michael are the only three, but Gabriel is still in heaven, leading the charge against Anubis up there, and all these werewolves and the fallen, or not the fallen, the demons.
How is Anubis still gathering troops if there's a zombie apocalypse happening?
Right, so check this out. Every person that gets infected,
dies and becomes Anubis's.
Right. Their soul goes and is effectively on Anubis' side. Okay. And don't forget, he's been collecting evil souls for over 2,014 years now. So he's doing all right, numbers-wise. Anyway, Lucifer ends up transferring his power to Vladimir, dying himself, and gives his power to his grandson. And he tells him, hey, you're going to have to be in charge of all the realm, the underworld. He goes, but you have to beat Michael. So he gives him his power.
He has his sword.
Fucking Vladimir's he has no wings, but he's now on point with Michael. They do this great fight scene. Michael gets killed, and Gabriel ascends to the right hand of God as the only general. What was that? Go ahead and pause it.